So even though we've got the fox producers set up, we still need to set up another little group of producers for the food. So let's do that quickly now. We're following the same steps we did in the last one, so I'm not going to go into quite as much detail. We'll just quickly try to go through it. But in this case, we're going to be a little cheaty. We're going to use existing items as the seed, but we still need to open the items table to make sure that we get the item IDs right. So what we're going to feed our foxes is grapes, apples, and mushrooms that already exist. So the next table that we're going to need is the producers table. We don't need to make drops for these because I'm not going to give you anything back from the bucket or anything. I'm not going to let you scoop out food and put new food in or anything. If anything, I might let you destroy the food in the bucket. We just need the producer itself to reference these items. So let's go get the producer table. We're going to need the states, and we're going to need just the producers one. So again, states is where the art goes. Got bucket of apples, bucket of grapes, and bucket of mushrooms. I only made client art for these because I think you can just interact with the bucket base static and it should be fine. So hopefully this will work. So we just have client art. For the play state, we're going to use the first state for all of them again. So we'll use state 1. We're doing the same kind of thing we did with the foxes where we're trying to reuse art of it. Then we'll need that same one again for building. We've got apples, grapes, putting it in building 1, and then we need in building 2. This time we use our state 2 art because the bucket's only half full in this art. Then we'll go to our state 3 art where the bucket's almost empty. The ready state, we're going to use the empty-ish art, but it's just going to immediately get rid of itself anyway, so this art won't be visible very long. So apples 3, grapes 3, mushrooms 3. That should be it for the art. To take a quick look at what the art actually is, if we look at it here from the side, you can see that it's just the bucket getting emptier. So the circle's just getting a little lower and a little smaller as it goes into the bottom of the bucket to make it look like the foxes are eating the food. The producer states are done, but we're going to use the same names for the producers here. And give all these unique storage IDs. Now this is what we needed to open the item table for. We want to actually use our crops for this, right? So we want to go find the same crop. So we used grapes as one. We'll take that. And we used apple. And we used brown mushroom. Here we go. We're just copying it from that item table to make sure we don't make a mistake. Specifically so that I won't make a mistake. So now it's how many foods should you have to put into the bucket to fill it up? We're just going to use 10. Change it to whatever makes sense for your game and how long you want them to stay fed for. Valid producer base type. Remember we set that up when we set up the producer base, which is a type of placeable. So we need to go to that table just to peek at what we used. So let's go to the placeables table. Now we need to go and look at the food bucket, which is down at the bottom here. There we go. The producer base type is animal feeder. That means that you can only plant an apple this way in something marked as an animal feeder. And the reason we use a tag called animal feeder is I could make a different bucket that looked fancier, but still use the same producer in it if I wanted. This is how long the bucket will take to empty. We'll make it take a little longer than the foxes right now, just so that it's easier to see, so that the foxes have time to eat before the food vanishes. This one doesn't rebuild. That means we want it set to just a single collect. It's going to auto build. It's not going to rebuild. It is going to auto collect when it's done. It's not going to plant anything else. It'll just become an empty bucket. Here's where we need those IDs. These are the IDs from this one, from the art table. We're not going to make it expire. The hand tool is fine as a placement tool. Hammer is fine as a destroy. But you're not actually going to collect this one. It's just going to auto-collect itself. So we're just going to write the word none in there so that none of the tools count as valid for collecting it. So it can be destroyed but not collected. So we don't need collection. There might be some text that would be helpful for the player that we could put here, but I'm not sure what it would be right now, so I'll leave that empty. Placement preview, we want the fullest state of food, so that's the first one. Apples, grapes, mushrooms, basic hologram material is still fine. Green color is still fine. You can definitely change all this stuff if you want a different material or a different place color. For the place effects, maybe I'll use the gloopy one. Sorry, you can't actually hear the sound. Yeah, you know what? I'll just use that for now. I think I'll want a different one later. It doesn't need a collect effect. We'll use the same sound as the remove effect. Drop on collect, no, we're not dropping anything. I mean, I'll set a drop behavior on here, but we don't actually need one because it's not going to drop. Likewise, we don't need drop IDs. Yeah, that should be fine. Now, this one I shouldn't have to add a new item to our inventory, but I don't think we actually give ourselves grapes or anything in our starting item, so I should actually do that. Because otherwise we'd have to go do farming in order to test out our feeder. And go and add, again, we need those same IDs. We'll add mushrooms, apple, and grapes. Put them all in our inventory. Then the next available slots, which are 28, 29, 30. Give ourselves like, I don't know, 20 of each. So we have enough to fill each feeder a couple times. Alright, now let's really for real go test that. Now we have to hit F1 in order to get that new stuff, so let's do that. Oh, right, we can't place it because we haven't bought this land yet, because I erased our data. Now we own it again. Alright, well it does seem to be working. Now, right now there's no connection between the animals and the food. The hunger signs above the animals won't go away. None of that's hooked up correctly. They don't seem to be emptying, so I've missed something. I gotta go figure that out. So I was digging around trying to figure out why they weren't producing, and I noticed that the foxes weren't actually producing either. So I went and I checked the producer bases that we set up the other day, and whoops, the build rate is set to 0. That's not going to work. So set those both to 1. Shouldn't need to do anything else here. Let's save and let's go test it. Yeah, there we go. Our buckets have emptied. So there you can see it's going down rapidly because I changed the time to 5 seconds when I was trying to figure out if it was what was causing it to stop working. Our fox now produces hearts every 5 seconds. It's like instantly done. I noticed one other issue when I was testing my foxes. If that I tried to pick them up, I didn't get the fox back. It was just vanishing. So that means I made a mistake in the drops somewhere. And I realized that I put the item ID instead of the drop ID. So right here, these need to be drop IDs, not item IDs. So if we get the ones we made, So that should make those come back. So let's do another little test and see if it's actually working the way we want now. I just hit F1 to get rid of stuff so that I could get the foxes back. So the first thing I want to test here is just this little guy. It should let us collect 3 times. There we go. And then it grew into a mum fox. So that's sweet, that worked. Oh, my rebuilding times must be set wrong. Because this one takes 5 seconds, but then when it rebuilds, it's like instant. So we need to check that. And those apple buckets are emptying quite nicely. I'm trying to pick up the fox, but because the collection timer is so short, every time I do it, it's just collecting instead. So let's go fix that. Go back into the producers table. Yeah, our rebuild is set to like nothing. Let's make the cub pretty quick because we want to make sure it's growing up properly, and then we'll make mom and dad 30 seconds. Let's hit F1 again. I don't know if you noticed, but I tried to give myself multiple foxes, but it didn't work, and that's because the stack size is set to 1. I made the foxes all in different orientations so that I wouldn't get confused that they were the same model when they switched. To be kind to your players, you probably wouldn't want to do that. You probably want to make them all face the same direction so it's easier for people to get the bases pointing how they want. Okay, so that's all fine now. There we go, and the fox dropped on the ground when I picked it up with the hammer. And they didn't stack together because we told it could only have a stack size of 1. And it gave us a mum fox back, not a baby, which is what it's supposed to, so that's great. All right, it's really all working now, so we'll tackle the next thing in the next video.